So I guess I'm on now, eh? Hello everybody, welcome to this fantastic event. It's so great, isn't it, to be back into the being able to socially mix again. I mean, what an 18 months it's been. It's been horrendous for most people, certainly for me. But I have to say I thoroughly enjoy these events and getting together with this community. I've never known anything like it in my life, a community that is as dedicated and committed as the Amiga and Commodore community are. And honestly, when I'm in the presence of you guys, I just feel so made welcome, and quite genuinely, I really thoroughly enjoy being here. Now, obviously, what I normally do here is questions and answers, but just before I do that, I just want to promote my new book, which is still wet with ink. These were only delivered 12 days ago. And for those of you who don't know what this book is about, it's called From Vultures to Vampires, which is very dear to my friend Mike Batalana's heart, who Mike's sitting here. This is a story about what happened after Commodore's bankruptcy, in the courtroom in New York, when ESCOM were the highest bidder for the assets. I was in that courtroom on that day, a day that's seared in my memory forever. And this story tells everything that happened from the time that ESCOM bought the assets, how they mishandled it, the mistakes that they made, overreaching themselves in various quarters. And then from then, there was loads and loads of people searching, trying to get hold of the IPs or the trademarks or the logos or the patents or whatever. Some of them with really great honourable reasons. They wanted to get these things and make something special from it. And some, I think, were just making, really just being kind of vulture, like trying to make a quick quid. This book tells all. We don't take sides. This book is designed to be the truth, as much as we possibly can get it. And I think what makes this a little different too is that not only are we recording the things as they happened back then, we've got in touch with most of those people and said, would you like to talk now about how you feel, about how it was back then when this happened? And so we have a modern perspective on what happened. And most people have contributed. Some people refuse to contribute, and I'll leave that up to the readers to decide what they make of that. The interesting thing about this is that I have found out so much that I had no idea about. And when I did the Kickstarter for this book, I promised I would deliver a book with the same size and quality as the first book, The Inside Story. And the problem is that we got to this size, which is 360 pages, the same size as the first book, and we'd only reached 2004. So we had no option but to release Volume 2. Well, I say release it, we're currently writing it. But if I'm perfectly candid with you, I think we're going to have to do Volume 3, because there is so much material that we've now discovered that a lot of people didn't know about. And it's tremendously interesting. I mean, just from what's in this volume, if some of these things that were developed had actually been released, the Amiga would be a completely different product today. It would be something completely remote from being a home computer. And I think when you read all these things, you think, wow, what if, you know? And there's more and more with the later years, obviously. I'm very, very proud of this book. It's taken a lot longer than I expected it to, for the reasons I've explained. There is just so much material in here. If anybody's interested, if you look on the back, we name most of the brands and the companies that were involved in this part of the book. This goes up to 2004. And it's a great read. I mean, honestly, you will be amazed at what we've found out. In more recent times, for Volume 2 and potentially Volume 3, we've got some really, really juicy stuff. It's unbelievable. We're talking about, you know, millions and millions of dollars and all sorts of things. It's a fascinating story. So I encourage you to please, if you haven't already backed it, please buy it. Or if we do a Kickstarter for Volume 3, please back it, because without your back, we can't produce these things, and it's such a lot of work and effort and time goes into it. Anyway, I'm very proud of it. Please come and see me afterwards. If you've already backed it and you haven't picked up the book, please come and see me, and I'll give you your book and sign for you if you want. Probably worth less if I sign it, but anyway, that's the way it is. Okay, enough of the advertising. So, questions and answers. Who wants to ask it?
Let me come up, because I've been sent to come and deal with questions. We grab another mic and we'll field some questions, and I'll throw a few questions at you as well. Oh, and you'll understand why I've got the case in a minute. Right, is that what? Can you hear me? Ish.
A bit louder, Chris. Sorry, mate.
Can you? No. Where's the third mic gone? Can you hear me now? Yes, you can. Okay. So we're not going to be off the hook that easy, though. We've got a few questions for you. So, the first book is covering a very, I think, tumultuous time in the history of the Amiga and the IP and everything else that's going on. But you also talked about how some of the ideas, the technologies that could have held in a different Amiga or a different Commodore, for that matter. What for you were the standout things that could have been, should have been, that would ever work?
Okay, well the first one is after we had milked, and I mean that very determinedly, milked every last sale we could wring out of the Commodore 64. My idea was to replace the Commodore 64 with a low-cost Amiga, which was something that would be very basic, but which could be added to as people could afford it. Because I wanted to capture that same socio-economic group who were paying £200 for a 64. I reckoned if we produced it, we could do a £249 Amiga. That was the plan. And I gave them the whole of what we needed, including it was to be called the A300, because that would be, there'd be no doubts in anybody's mind that it was not a 500 or higher.
And it sat lower in that original range.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the idea was to launch an A300 to be low cost reduced, so that we could grab that market share again that we had with the 64. Remember that we sold just under 27 million 64s, and that's an absolute accurate figure because I saw it when we did our due diligence in Westchester, and I thought there would be a big market. At the same time, it was a long-term vision that we were going to produce a case which would allow people to upgrade from 500 to 600, 1200, 1000, 2000, 3000 by upgrading their motherboards and utilising as many peripherals as possible. That is a product range that we were going to call the Amiga Infinity range. So anyway, what happened, of course, was that instead of releasing a 300, they produced something which cost more to make than the 500. It immediately, because they called it the Amiga 600, it immediately killed all the 500 sales, and we made less money on it. So it was the complete reverse of what the plan was. The plan was to bring something in low cost that we could still make money on and sell more of. I think the other opportunity that we missed was that I've always believed that we should have been working in conjunction with the third-party companies in producing peripherals, not letting other people do them on their own and not supporting them. So if you imagine that if we were able to work with, for example, I've forgotten the name of the company now.
Newtek?
Newtek, sorry, yeah, Newtek. We should have worked with Newtek and cooperated with them and produced something that was jointly produced, so that, and then we'd get the best of all the brands, and it would be under our name and so on and so forth, and we could make certain that we wouldn't have all the incompatibility issues that we would have. But I guess in my heart of hearts, the thing that we really missed out on was the product that was codenamed Ombre, which was a chip being designed by Commodore, by Dr. Ed Hepler, that would blow anything out of the water that there is today. And when ESCOM bought it, they did their due diligence that they were at Westchester at the same time that Colin and I were, and they didn't even look at it. They didn't even look at it. So they let all of the engineers go. I mean, eventually they recruited Dave Haney and a couple of others as well. But they actually I don't even know why they bothered with the Amiga, because they got no plans for it. But in all honesty, the Ombre was unbelievable. In essence, what it was an HP RISC-based core, which had inbuilt a blitter, a chunky planar, a 5.1 surround sound stereo, which was a state of the art at that time.
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding. What it could do was just mind-boggling. And I said, there's nothing on the market today that I've seen that comes close to it. So, in terms of, to answer your question, that I think is an area that we missed out entirely on. But again, it's all down, I guess, to the people who were in control at the time. They obviously were people without much vision.
Now, I mean, when we talk about missed opportunities, I mean, they weren't all just Amiga related. If I dig back in my own mind, and you probably won't remember this, but I actually interviewed you many years ago. It was around about the time you were producing the Everybody's Girlfriend CD. I interviewed you at the recording studio in Pump Lane.
Okay.
And I remember you telling me about a handheld PC prototype.
Yeah.
That Commodore had, that had that come to market, would have potentially been a revolutionary product in the then burgeoning handheld market. That never ever saw the light of day.
That was in 1982 when I was for a year as vice president in the consumer division in the US, and they gave me this. It was a palm-sized 386 at the time, and that was in 1992. And they said to me, take it round, because I was going to all of the big retailers, because Sears and people like that, take it round and see what they think. Everybody said, gag, we want it. Never even produced it. It's like you can take a horse to water, and they say, but you can't make it drink.
But ultimately seeded a market that eventually saw Scion make a small fortune, and then saw the net tops wade into that market and mop it up.
I think, to be honest with you, the only rationale I can apply to all of this is that I think had Jack Jamil still been around, we would have been a different company, because it was his driving force. And I know he was pretty aggressive as a guy. I swear to you, I only met him once for about 2 minutes, that's all. Because I joined in June of '83. I actually saw him at the Winter CES in Las Vegas in January of '84, and by March he'd gone. So I didn't know him, but what I do understand from the people that I've spoken with is that he was a hard taskmaster, but he had a driving force that they definitely didn't have after he left. See, people like Irving Gould, who was the investor, he saved Jack's arse, to be honest, and he brought in a lot of money. But as he became the major shareholder, all he was interested in was protecting his share price. And also he utilised the company pet jet, so he could travel between Canada, Bahamas and the US, because he was not allowed to stay in any one country for more than 3 days, because he was a tax exile. So he used the Commodore pet jet to fly around and make sure he wasn't ever caught up for tax. I think once he took over, I think they were very poor at recruiting. The people that they got in to run the company were completely wrong. I don't think you can run a technical company, if your background is selling Coca-Cola. I really don't, But even so, had those people spent any time asking questions for the people who work for them, finding out, not once did anybody ever come to me, and we are the most successful consumer division in Commodore worldwide, and I'm not just saying that's the truth. Not once did anybody come to me and say, David, what does the market want? What do we need? What can we get for you? What can we deliver that will do well? They never asked the question. Now I find that unbelievable of a company, with the background and heritage that Jack had built. He went from one product to another, and he tried to capitalise on any opportunity. Commodore never did that. Suddenly they would turn up with a product that nobody asked for. For example, a Plus 4. I remember getting 20,000 Plus 4s delivered into my warehouse. What the hell is this? Who asked for it? Who wanted it? Has it got a market? It did have a market eventually at £99. But when they sold it, they wanted £400 for it. Hello, smell the coffee, you know.
If anyone's interested, we do have a +4 out on the gaming floor. If you want to have a look. But yeah, I mean, interesting. I mean, we bought my family bought a +4 for 99 quid in Dixon's when they were being cleared out. I mean, at £400, it just wasn't going to appeal.
No, it's nonsense. And it was supposed to be a business computer.
That's right.
+4 productivity pieces of software.
They weren't the best, to be fair. I mean, my next question is jumping forward quite a bit. I mean, the book is covering a very significant part of history, but if we take it in its entirety through to today, I mean, the Amiga has gone through a truly incredible 2.5 decades of missed business opportunities, of legal wranglings, of arguments, and egos and poor business decisions, killing off the opportunities for relaunches or even for finding niche markets. Yet we find ourselves in 2021 with a platform that still has a community, has just had a brand new update to the OS released. It's still having games and other software released, and obviously it's not the the third platform it potentially could have been, but it just won't die. And then of course we also start to now see interesting new bits of hardware, and that's why I have the case here, because very much in line with your book, we have things like the Vampire. What sort of opportunity do you think this gives, whether it's to the hobbyist community or even to finding a new lease of life for the platform?
I have an answer for that, but I don't intend to give it to you now.
We're going to wait for the book, haven't we?
No, it's not. No, it's not the book. In fact, when I was first shown that product, which was in the Gamescom in Cologne, I think it was 2019, I was shown a behind-the-scenes that product. I immediately discovered there was a big market for that, in a market that nobody's actually in at the moment, and I do intend to follow that. Just as a matter of interest, those people, any of you who's been following me, up until a few days ago, I was working with Friend Software Corporation. I'm no longer with them. I've made the decision that I want to get more involved with the Commodore and Amiga community and do things that I can have more control over. Yeah. Because I think that's where my forte lies. I mean, everybody who knows me knows that I drive. I absolutely drive things. If I want to do something, I make it happen. And I do see an opportunity. What I'm trying to do, what I intend to try to do, is to bring this community together in a way that's never been done before. Because we're a fantastic community, but we're still splintered.
Yes.
We're splintered. We've got all these Amiga and Commodore groups all over the world, and some of them don't even talk to each other, which I find rather bizarre. But if we can, in one way or another, get everybody more or less on the same page, just imagine how powerful that could be. It could be phenomenal. So, getting back to the Vampire, when I saw that Vampire product, that's why when I decided to write the second book, which most people know I've co-written with Trevor, the idea, I knew, in my opinion, that there was loads of vultures around at the days after ESCOM. Well, ESCOM were vultures in their own way. Yeah. And then when I saw that, the idea for the title of the book, From Vultures to Vampires, it's just too good a marketing name to let go. And I've had quite heated discussions with certain people about whether they like the name or not. But anyway, I think that there is an opportunity for technology like the Vampire. Definitely, I said I've got an idea of what could be done with that, which would bring a whole new market to the community. Having said all of that, I think there having been so many missed opportunities, and certainly when you read volume 1 of those, you do get the book, you see some of the opportunities, some of the products that were developed that just never quite made it. It's heartbreaking, because I swear to you that some of the products that were planned, they would have changed technology in the home forever. Just never actually crossed the line. It's really, really sad.
Okay. I will leave. Well, actually, before I leave one last question, let's just turn to the floor and see if there's any questions from the audience. Is there anything anybody would like to ask David? Yes, sir.
Yeah, just be interesting to hear your opinion, David, on why the microcomputer did so well in Europe and the UK, and on the other side of the Atlantic, the consoles were the king. Now, was it different sensibility of parents, or was it marketing, or they've got bigger lounge rooms and bigger TVs over that side?
So just in case everybody didn't hear that, so why did microcomputers thrive in one market, whereas consoles dominated in another? What was the reasoning, do you think, behind that?
Well, I can really only talk in terms of Commodore's influence on that, and I can tell you that Commodore US, and I speak with absolute knowledge, I call Commodore US the best sales prevention officers I've ever met. And there's a couple of reasons. First of all, when it came to the Commodore 64, they had one customer, Kmart, who decided that they were going to discount the 64, and a product that they were paying $98 for, they were selling over the counter at $99. And the reason they did that was because then they sold all the peripherals, the joysticks, the cassette drives, the software at full price. Now, although it's illegal, Commodore should never have allowed that to happen, because what it meant was that their whole distribution channel, all of the retailers around the place, they said, I'm not going to stock something that I pay $98 for and sell at $99. Why should I? It's too big a risk. You lose money because everyone that comes back for service and all of that stuff. So they stopped stocking it. Now what Commodore should have done was to suddenly find that sorry, Mr. Kmart, we're out of stock. We're sold out. Can't supply you, or whatever. I said it's illegal, but that's what they should have done. So what that meant was, as soon as they came out with the Amiga, they hadn't got a retail base to sell into. And of course, the other thing is that they concentrated on selling business products rather than selling the 500, for example, as a consumer product, which of course is what it was meant to be. And honestly, I don't think they could have done a better job of saboteur, if they'd have got professionals in. And it was a mental attitude. There's absolutely no doubt whatsoever. But also, let me give you another example of the kind of mentality that Commodore US had. When I was asked to go there, which was in '92, January of '92, when I arrived, I'd got a team. I've got 4 salespeople and 2-3 marketing people. And I sat them down and I said, okay, look, I'm absolutely brand new here. Tell me what's going on. Why aren't you selling anything? And they said, David, we're not allowed to. What do you mean you're not allowed to? We can't. We've been told we can't sell to anybody. Why? We don't know why, but it turns out that they all owe us money. Every major retailer, Sears and all the names, they all owed money to Commodore. And I said, well, why? And they said, we don't know. Oh, come on. Anyway, I said, look, we've got to get to the bottom of this. So I got them all to make appointments for me. And the first company I went to see was Sears in Chicago on their 14th floor, I think it was. And there was 12 people sat around the boardroom table, plus me and Steve, who was my sales guy. And I sat down, introduced myself, and I said, look, my name's David Pleasance. I've been with Commodore X number of years. I think it was about 8 years or something. And I'm here to try to sort out some of the problems that we've got. And I said, look, I will only give you the truth. I'll only give you honest answers, but my word is my bond. I said, but can I start off by just asking you straight out, why are you not paying your bills? And they said, because we're waiting for you to come and take all the stock back. I said, hang on. I said, I've never known Commodore to be a lending library. Anyway, they pushed a piece of paper across the desk to me, across the boardroom table, and it was a signed letter, signed by Jim Dion, who was the president of Commodore Inc., the sales company in the US, and it was a sale or return agreement. So everything that was against our policies, and what they'd stuffed them, if you imagine Sears, every Sears store was stuffed with a product that they couldn't sell. Guess what that product was? CD TV. CD TVs that nobody could sell. Even the most, advanced technical people could find it difficult to sell. It was far too advanced, far too complicated. And in Sears, for example, they have trouble ringing something up and putting it in a plastic bag. So what chance do they have of selling, of that product? And this Jim Dion, what he'd done is he'd sold in every store in the States, CDTVs, claimed his commission and claimed his bonus, but it was sale or return. And none of them could sell them. I had no option but to take them all back. No option. Signed by the president of the company, what else could I do? But what I did do, I had to think really quickly on my feet, and I said, gentlemen, you should never have been sold this product, it's ridiculous. I said, what you should be selling is what we're selling loads of in Europe, which is Amiga 500. That's a product that you can sell because it's in demand and la-di-la-di-la. Anyway, so I said to them, I'll tell you what I'll do. I said, if you will give me an order to the same value of stock I'm taking back from you, I'll sell you Amiga 500 and I'll give you your own pack, a Sears only pack, which is what we did. So yes, I ended up with the negative, but it wasn't hundreds of thousands of dollars because I didn't make it up and then we started selling again. But can you imagine the mentality? This is how Commodore was run, and all sorts of weird things. So I'm right saying they were sales prevention officers.
So I guess that just left the door open then for Sega and Nintendo and America to dominate. Yeah,
but getting back to your original question about the consoles, what happened was, of course, is that Kmart, who was selling loads and loads of 64s, and Commodore didn't care. They were selling as many as they could make, so they didn't think they had to do anything about it, which is the mentality. But of course, one day Sega knocked on Kmart's door and said, look, that product you're selling for $99, how about we sell you one you can sell for $99 and you can buy it for $60. So they dropped us like hot cake, and so that let the consoles in. But we destroyed the retail market. Commodore themselves destroyed it. They deserved the accolade. They should be wearing medals.
Any more questions?
Sir?
Mikey?
What did you think of, the Commodore machine where it's just a Commodore but you can only put a cartridge in it?
The C64 GS?
Yes, what did you think of that?
I thought it was a waste of time. Backwards development.
How did that come about?
Again, you see, because there was never any business plan, what used to happen is that there'd be a new person be employed, a new head of manufacturing, a new head of engineering, and they all had different ideas. So they'd go along, they'd go to Dave Haney and say, what are you working on? Oh, I'm done with this. Oh, you don't want to do that. Let's drop doing that and do this. So there were all these things that were being dropped, and half undeveloped. But stupidity is that if anybody had bothered to look, Commodore used to be in the software business, and I know because I had to clear out hundreds of thousands of pieces of software that Commodore was involved in when we closed our factory in Corby. We built we had a 10-acre site, we built a factory in Corby, purpose-built factory. It was for assembly and distribution and admin and everything, it was all there, right? And then one of the new hirees under Erling Gould decided, in order to make money, cut all your expenses. So he closed that factory down. We kept the old things, the Braunschweig and that dreadful things, right? But anyway, the net result was I had to empty that place. We were full of pieces of software that Commodore had tried to market. The only piece of software that I know they successfully marketed was International Soccer, which was a 64 game that did very, very well indeed. The young kid, 15-year-old kid, we did well with that. But we had cartridges coming out of the yin yang. And let me tell you this story, I love this story. There was a game which was called Spirit of the Stones. And it was a game that was written, it was a treasure hunt based on the Isle of Wight. And the idea was that this person who'd written the game, he'd hid some jewels of some sort around the island, and you had to work out all the tricks and find these jewels, right? Now, it came to me, I had to try and get rid of them. And it turned out that the deal we did it in conjunction with the Isle of Wight Tourist Board. And we agreed to pay them £5 for every one we sold, okay? So I think I'd got 10,000 or something I needed to get rid of. So I rang them up and I said, look, we know the deal was £5 an item, but I've just been offered £2 for them, and I'll give you £1, no, we have £1. No, £5 or nothing. And I said, well, you give me no choice, I have to destroy them. No, you won't do that. I did that. We dug a bloody great big hole. We had 2 lawyers witness it. We buried it, and that was it. 10,000 pieces of Spirit of the Stones. So what I'm trying to tell you is that for us to go into a cartridge-based machine made absolute nonsense. It was just, I don't know, somebody's wet dream. I don't know.
Wherever the game's buried.
Yeah.
Is this going to be another documentary like the E.T. one?
That'll be in the 4th book, won't it?
Yeah. Anybody else?
Any more?
I'd like to just tell you the story, that if you haven't heard, about the Plus 4 and it being sold for £99, because you said you got one.
Yeah.
I know Dan got one of his first computers. I must tell you that story. I forget what Christmas it was now. I forget now, but my memory's not that good. But a guy came in to see me at Commodore in Corby, and I'm going to swear. I hope you don't mind, because I'm going to tell exactly like it was. This guy came in and he says, Mr. Pleasance, he says, I've got 25 million fucking quid I want to spend with you. He said, I want to buy all your 64s. I said, not interested. They're already sold, because everything was pre-sold for Christmas. Oh, come on. Anyway, as God is my witness, he sat down, he put his feet up on my desk and was picking his nose. I swear to you on my life. And he said, I can believe you want to take 25 million quid off me. And he said, there must be something. And I said, have you heard of the Plus 4? No. So, really, man. He didn't ask, so I didn't tell him that it wasn't compatible with a 64. He didn't ask, I didn't tell him. Anyway, he was representing Greens, the chain of Green who's on his yacht at the moment. Anyway, they bought, I'd just done a deal with Lasky's to sell the UK's last 10,000 pieces. I had to go back to Lasky's because these guys wanted lots. So I ended up taking the world's supply, the Plus 4s. We got components, we put them all together, and then we went back to, and they were doing really, really well, because they put them on sale in October, 99 quid. Everybody was buying them for their kids for Christmas. Anyway, they were selling like hotcakes, absolutely flying there. So we went back and we ended up selling the whole of the Commodore World supply. And then we went back again and we sold them all the peripherals, because they had dedicated peripherals. They had these great 1542s and monitors and all these sort of things. We sold them.
And those joysticks as well.
We sold them everything. And we came out there doing cartwheels in the car park. I can tell you, it was incredible. And it wasn't until about 3 or 4 weeks after Christmas that the shit hit the fan, when all the people who bought for their kids, when they'd played the 10 games that we sold them with, they realised they went to go buy, and of course it's not 64 compatible. They didn't care, they'd sold everything and made an absolute fortune. But that's my claim to fame. And I said, he didn't ask me, so I didn't tell him a lie, Gotta love it. Well,
any more? If not, I'm going to hand it back to David for a final word.
I've got one question. David, back to your books. Of the 2 books you've written so far, which one have you enjoyed the most writing?
I enjoyed writing the first one probably the most, because I'd never written anything before, and it taught me a lot. It taught me, when I read what I'd written, I thought it was a load of rubbish, because it was more a story about David Pleasance than it was about Commodore. And when I thought about it, well, actually, I don't know how it can be anything else, because this is the story from my ears and eyes. But then I thought, well, I've got to give people more than that. So, but I still want it to be just from the inside. So I then spoke to lots of the other Commodore, ex-Commodore people, like Dave Haney, Beth Richard, so on and so forth, RJ, and I said, will you all write, your perspective, so that the book ended up being a very broad perspective, but also all from inside. I also got a few people from outside. For example, Mike here, who was involved with us in a number of ways, and particularly in our bundles and things. I got them to have mostly from an external point of view, just maybe a couple of verses, not very much, whereas all the others was chapters. And so that book, I think, I'm really proud of the book, because it does tell the story absolutely genuinely. And there's a couple of things that I've forgotten and remembered since, but basically, it tells the story from from a real point of view, from somebody who'd gone into Commodore by accident and didn't even apply for a job there, and I think it was my heart. The new book, of course, I didn't know anything about that because I left Commodore when it ultimately was sold to Retcon, and I was out of it completely. I changed my life completely. I remarried. I lived in the Dominican Republic. I lived in Australia. And I didn't know anything else about the industry after that. So when I came back into the industry, because I was invited to be a speaker at the Amiga 30 event in Amsterdam, and I walked in that room and I was swamped by people saying, "Can I have your autograph? Can I have a selfie?" Which was amazing to me. What are they talking about? But since then, of course, everybody's been telling me the stories, and so the idea of writing a follow-up book about what happened since. And I had to do a lot of research. Luckily for me, Trevor had done a lot of research as well, so it made sense for us to do it sort of on a co-authorship basis. But I've learned an awful lot, and I said I'm really proud of this book, and I swear to anybody who buys the book, you won't believe some of the things that happened, that could have been, that might have been, that just got so close.
Okay, I think that's it. Any last words from you, David? Or?
No, just buy my book. I need the money.
Buy the book. With that.
No, thank you everybody for your great audience. I do appreciate it, and I'm approachable all the time, anytime. If anybody ever wants to reach me, email at davidpleasance.com. Dead easy to remember, and I'm happy to interact with you, especially if you send me money.
And with that, David Pleasance, thank you very much indeed.